In your 2007 exit, parting words to Mormon cinema, which was really about Mormon cinema and hoping to grow, you did mention that you're hoping to not become a Thomas Marsh figure today. So I'd love you to tell what you meant there, if you don't mind, and have you felt like you've been treated the way Thomas Marsh was treated? No,
actually, that came out. That was in the follow-up because I did the thing in the Daily Herald.
Right, that was actually in the one for Mormon Stories. You're right.
And then, so I did the thing, and I was asked to write for that editorial for the Daily Herald, and they wanted me to just do a Mormon cinema, and I kind of came back and said, well, actually, it's turning into more of this. Are you guys still interested? And it's like, yeah, we're interested. In fact, we'll give you the whole page. So that's what I gave them, and I tried. That was such a heartfelt. I wrote that in the office right next to us here in my office, and it was like breaking up. And I was wiping away tears, and I was trying to trying to communicate very clearly, but very sincerely and very gently. And I wanted it to be a positive thing, and sent it out there, and just immediately, the anger and the vitriol just came at me in such force that it really did feel like I just opened up and I was getting kicked, And that's when the follow-up came, when people were already on the internet saying, oh, he's probably a homosexual, he's probably having an affair, he's a drug addict, he's whatever, just nonsense. Or
in order to make it fit within this worldview that says it has to be something.
Yeah, he said something about beer, it's obviously alcohol. Just, It's just the stupidity, and then the anger, and that's when I came back. And I'd been contemplating, and I'd watched that process over and over as people had left the church from the very beginning, and the character assassination starts immediately. And that's when I just stepped up and said, okay, this is probably going to happen to me, but I'm not going to go down without a fight, and I'm going to at least point out what's happening while you're doing it. And
for listeners who may not remember why Thomas Marsh was the example you chose.
Thomas Marsh was the example I chose because he was one of, he's always brought up in Sunday school lessons as, this is the apostle that threw away his exaltation and everything because his wife was cheating another sister off of the strippings of the milk, and he was so offended that she would be called on the carpet for it, and so he left the church. And that's one of those stories that's such utter bullshit that when you look into it and realize that, no, he left during, this was the Sidney Rigdon salt sermon days and Far West when things went crazy, and the lives of these leaders were being threatened by other leaders, and they weren't happy with how things were going. And basically Thomas Marsh and Oliver Cowdery and a bunch of others just got out of town because their lives were in danger from the saints, from other leaders in the church.
Who weren't turning the other cheek, and who were retaliating.
It was complete insanity, and they were actually in danger of being killed. And so they got the hell out of town. And of course, that part of the story is never told. And I've always been
reduced as a full-blooded person with lots of reasons to this one soundbite, this morality tale.
And I thought, this is going to happen to me. I do not want this to happen to me. And again, instantly I have all this complex story and the very painful story. But people want to believe that it's because somebody wasn't buying tickets to my movies. And so yeah, I just came out with that to say, okay, I'm aware this is what happens, and especially that idea of, it's interesting, when I left, a few people reached out to say, we love you, we want you back, what can is there anything we can help you with? But most people didn't, it was that thing of most people, the wandering sheep, they don't reach out to bring it home, they get up on the tower, pull out the high-powered rifle, and try to shoot your wandering brains out.
Just because it makes their story less complicated if you're gone.
Yeah, and there were things that I needed. I had fallen away at a point where I was probably as worthy as somebody could be. There are all interesting parts of my story that, of course, would be more interesting and it'd be easier to dismiss if I had just simply wanted to be a gay drug addict. In fact, shortly after this, I ran into another guy, an artist who had left the church, just happened to run into him at an art museum in Springville, and he goes, I totally know what you're going through. He's like, everybody, you leave the church and they instantly think that 2 years from now you're going to be found dead and naked in a gay whorehouse with a needle in your arm, And it's like, that's exactly what, people are reacting this way.
has it happened? I mean, it happened immediately in the aftermath, or overall has, are you still getting it?
You know, I have to actually be pretty grateful because, and I don't know if it was because of that initial stepping out and saying, acknowledging this, but also the way that I expressed myself. And afterwards, I tried so very hard, even though I was aware of just the nastiest things being said about me on the internet. And there's always that reaction to get on and defend yourself, and I tried so hard. I failed in a couple instances, you know, when I was... It's hard to describe how hurtful that is, you know, to when you open up to that kind of a degree and you have just this malice being just poured out at you, and all the speculation, but for the most part I was able to, you know, hold my ground, just let people say what they needed to say and go on about their business.